Don't you dare pretend it's yours, don't even try it. The steel of her voice cut through the hush. Move, you're blocking the door. She held her ground against the glare, knuckles white on the papers. It was never meant for you. The woman's sneer flickered in the fluorescent light, her rings flashing as she reached for the document. You might want to step aside, came the low warning from across the room, tense and sharp. You always thought you were better than us. That's over now, the other woman spat, voice trembling. You lied, you stole, and now the truth staring you in the face. Go ahead, try to take it, she said, daring her to make the first move. Footsteps echoed, one set frantic, another so steady it felt like thunder. The air vibrated with the unsaid things years, decades piled between them. To understand how she ended up here, pressed to the edge with everything on the line, you have to start with what happened 2 weeks earlier, when the rain first hit the roof of the rusty old sedan and her world cracked wide open. Only $42.11 stood between Marissa Greer and absolute disaster. She sat hunched over the cracked vinyl of her rusting sedan, staring at the faded highway sign reading "Outside Cedillo, New Mexico, Sandoval County." Fat droplets of rain tapped a jittery rhythm on the windshield, streaking the only view she had of the condemned stretch of farmland hugging this forgotten road. Marissa's hands tightened over the steering wheel. In the passenger seat, Clara, her 9-year-old daughter, pulled her knees up to her chest, clutching the rain-flecked photo of her late father. "Mom, why are we here?" Clara's voice was thin, the way it always got when she was scared, barely carrying over the sound of the wind. Marissa forced a smile, glancing down at the girl's ratty pink hoodie. "It's just a roof, honey, better than the car for tonight. We'll figure things out tomorrow, I promise." Clara traced the edge of the photo. "Is Daddy's place really full of spiders?" "Probably a couple," Marissa said, trying to sound brave. "Nothing your shoe can't handle." Thunder shuddered out across the fields. Marissa felt the old ache in her forearms, a waitress's ache, 3 shifts a day for 8 years now, each one spent smiling so Clara could keep her spot at St. Gabriel's, the one good private school for 50 miles. Yesterday in the lawyer's musty office she'd listened as Jocelyn Greer, her father's widow, cracked jokes about Marissa's job under her breath, every word pointed like a knife. Jocelyn had arrived in a Porsche, trailing her 2 children, Brooks and Paige, both in starched uniforms, the kind Marissa couldn't afford even used. At the reading, Jocelyn flashed a crocodile smile. To Marissa, the old cottage by Cottonwood Creek, complete with every termite in Sandoval County. The room erupted with gleeful laughter from Jocelyn and her kids. Marissa had choked out, "That's it, is there?" only to be interrupted as Jocelyn snorted, "Don't fret, sweetheart, they'll probably pay you to tear it down." Brooks smirked, already snapping a selfie with the key held aloft. Paige chimed in, nasal and cold, "Can't wait to see her try to flip the dump." But while their snickers drowned out the lawyer's voice, Marissa noticed something odd in the document stack. An envelope with her grandmother's script slipped deep in the pages. The lawyer's fingers twitched when she touched it, but he said nothing. "You're not even family," Jocelyn spat once, her voice cutting glass, that line stabbing deeper than any other. "If you've ever watched people try to erase you from your own life, keep listening." A half-mile separated the broken cottage from the edge of the main road, a distance made longer by mud sucking at Marissa's shoes and icy wind slicing through her thin coat. Clara trudged behind, her boots a size too small, the handle of her old rolling suitcase wobbly from dragging. Everything they carried fit in that and one faded duffel bag. They reached a squat clapboard house, paint curling in strips from the boards, windows braced with sun-warped plywood, and a turquoise gate mostly peeled to bare metal. Clara hesitated on the sagging porch, hugging the photo tighter. Marissa's palm found her shoulder. "We'll go in together." Inside, the air was ripe with mold, heavy like it had never been washed. Marissa fumbled for the breaker, nothing. only the thin light filtering through cracks in Clara's sharp. It smells like old socks mixed with sadness. Marissa barked a laugh. We'll keep the sadness, lose the socks, come on. Their footsteps echoed in the hollow rooms. A staircase leaned precariously at the center. She looked for any sign of recent trespassers but found only dust. With every step, her father's voice came back, soft, black coffee low, from years before. Not every door is meant to stay open, kid. In the main room, she found a loose panel at the staircase's side, its edges worn smooth by hands, not time. At first, she thought it just covered old wiring, but her heart kicked when a cold draft escaped from behind. She hesitated, then eased the panel off, revealing a narrow cavity beneath the lowest step. Marissa reached inside, her fingers brushing paper, a metal edge, something thick and heavy. She froze. Under layers of dust was a bundle, envelopes, a metal box, and more, hidden where no one had even looked. Her pulse raced. She turned to Clara, voice low. Looks like someone left us a puzzle to solve. And for a second, Marissa forgot every ache, every shift, as hope flickered for the first time in months. They spent the next hour scouring the steps and floorboards by cell phone light, stacking their finds on the warped coffee table. Clara rummaged meticulously, nose wrinkled, and announced, "There's a mouse skeleton under the stairs." Marissa grinned despite herself. She didn't mention the ache in her own knees, only getting sharper with fatigue. But inside the metal box, she found 2 fat envelopes, a stack of yellowing paper with trailing blue ink, and a small, battered notebook. At the bottom, a sealed plastic sleeve held certificates stamped in neat black print. She traced the heading, big names, the sort you only saw in finance magazines, and numbers that stretched to 6 figures or more. Clara reached for the notebook. "Can I read it, Mom?" "Let's wait on that one, grown-up stuff." She counted the certificates. There were more than a dozen, dated back decades. The more she looked, the harder it was to breathe. A slip of paper in the notebook's first page read, in a looping curl, "For my granddaughter Marissa, the one meant to carry this forward." It was her grandmother's handwriting, deliberate, unmistakable. Thunder cracked again outside. Marissa shook, the shock of it making her fumble the notebook. Below the heading on one certificate was a name, hers, not Jocelyn's or her half-siblings. Why would Graham write that it was meant for me? Marissa's thoughts tumbled over each other. Beside her, Clara fussed with the torn edge of her hoodie. "Mom, does that mean this really is our house?" Marissa's hand found her daughter's and squeezed. "Let's see what secrets it wants to share, okay?" Rain battered the roof. Somewhere inside, hope took the shape of an old, ink-smeared note clenched in her fist. In the morning, Marissa stepped outside into hard blue daylight and spotted the lawyer's khaki Volvo on the dirt road. The trunk was slightly open, brushing against weeds. She closed the metal box, tucking the stock certificates inside. More forms would come, paperwork proof. She had no idea how valuable they were, but she knew enough. Someone had tried to keep this hidden. But there was no time to celebrate. The lawyer, Mr. Harper, stepped from his car, arms full of folders. His brow furrowed at her. "Marissa, didn't think you'd actually come out here. Listen, you've got 2 weeks, estate sales scheduled. After that, everything's gone. They'll start clearing out anything left behind's fair game." She felt the earth shift a little. Is that a threat? He frowned, voice soft but clipped. "Not from me. I don't make the rules, just move the paperwork along, but best not to drag your feet." Clara's voice piped up beside her, curiosity lacing her words. "Are we supposed to leave, Mom?" Marissa shook her head, biting at her lower lip. "Not yet, we're staying, at least until I figure this out." The lawyer hesitated, glancing at her daughter, then the cottage. "Look, I knew your Gram, knew what she meant to do. You want my advice? Check every corner, Jocelyn's after a quick sale, but wills in families like yours never tell the whole story." He made his way to the car, muttering as he went, "Patience, Marissa. These folks don't always play fair. Find what's yours before they sweep it up." As soon as he was gone, Marissa knelt by Clara, voice steady. "We need an ally, kiddo, someone in town who remembers us." Clara squinted at her, like Auntie Layla. "Not after last Thanksgiving," Marissa chuckled under her breath. They spent that day sifting through the cottage's creaking insides, a place both foreign and familiar, where each cupboard told stories she'd half forgotten. In the dim kitchen, among chipped mugs and sun-bleached canisters, Marissa opened the battered notebook again. The first entry held her grandmother's voice. "My darling girl, if you're reading this, it means you made it past everyone who wanted you small, sick, or scared. It means you're ready to take what's yours." She swallowed a sob. Years of being pushed aside, laughed at, she'd nearly believed she was worthless. But here, in Graham's scratchy script, was raw proof that someone had once seen her. She found a folded document with a faint notary stamp, her grandmother's will, different from the one Jocelyn had read at the lawyer's office. "Graham left this for me, Clara, all of this." Her daughter's eyes were round as marbles. "So you're the boss now." Marissa smiled through tears, something like that. She flipped through the stack, piecing together a trail of numbers, stock certificates, accounts, addresses, the beginnings of a hidden fortune so vast she struggled to breathe. Bank slips tracked dividends from as far back as the 1970s, never cashed, just compounding somewhere beyond reach. It was all in her name. A noise outside froze her. Brooks and Paige, Jocelyn's children, were stomping up the porch. "Hey, Cinderella," Brooks barked, voice dripping mockery. "You find anything good in the dust yet?" Paige leaned in, arms crossed, sweet venom leaking from every syllable. "Better leave before the roaches eat your kid." Clara bristled beside her mother, hands balled to fists. "Go away, this is our house." Brooks huffed, face purpled with a sneer, and Paige tossed her hair. "Not for long," she sang, before the two turned, slamming the door behind them. Marissa watched their retreat, heat rising in her chest. If she was going to hold on to this treasure, she'd need more than hope. Hours later, sunlight failing, Marissa made her way into Cedillo, to the only place she remembered from her childhood, the Main Street diner, run by her father's old friend, Eddie. Inside, the diner glowed with neon warmth, laughter tumbling through the haze of coffee and bacon fat. Eddie himself greeted her, apron flapping, a little grayer than she recalled. "Well, I'll be damned, little Marissa Greer back home at last, or is it Collins now?" he said, eyes twinkling. She felt Clara hiding behind her, almost clutching her leg. "It's Greer, at least for now." Eddie grinned, elbow propped on the counter. "You look like you've been through a war. Sit. Tell me what's got half the county talking. Word is there's trouble at your place." Marissa hesitated, but then slid into a booth, voice faltering. "Eddie, do you remember my grandmother's will and my father's estate?" Eddie wiped the counter, lowering his voice. "Some folks round here know about your stepmother. She's been buying up property, pushing hard for quick deals. People wonder why she's in such a rush." She pulled the battered notebook from her bag. "I found this. There's more certificates, company names I can't even pronounce. It's Eddie, it's in my name." Eddie nodded slowly, eyes sharp now. "She ever mentioned dividends to you? You ever see bank statements?" "Never," Marissa whispered. "I was a waitress all those years. Nobody said a word." He studied her for a beat. "Listen, bank like the one in Santa Rosa, if certificates like those belong to you, they owe you for every penny every year. Compound that over decades, could be millions, Marissa." She stared stunned. "Is that even possible?" Eddie grinned. "For folks who hide what don't belong to them, anything's possible. Tell you what. Tomorrow morning, bring those documents to my friend Morgan at the First National downtown. She's discreet, sharp. If this is as big as I think, you're not safe till it's official." Clara tugged at her mom's sleeve. "Can we get a milkshake first?" Eddie laughed, sliding a glass across. on the house, and Marissa, don't trust nobody that smiles too wide. Marissa met Eddie's eyes, heart thumping. Thank you, I don't know what to do yet, but I'm not letting her take what's ours. Good, then hurry before the ground shifts again. He paused, quieter. Estate sale in less than 2 weeks. They'll lock you out and burn the rest. Marissa shivered at that. There was no turning back now. They returned to the cottage by dusk, night air bristling. Marissa checked the doors, every lock, every shadow. She spread the documents along the kitchen table, mapping names, dates, numbers. A slip among the envelopes caught her attention, another letter sealed tight. She fumbled it open, hands trembling. Inside, her grandmother wrote in steady hand. My dearest girl, if you're reading this, then you were brave enough to return, even when everyone else told you nothing here belonged to you. This house and everything within is yours. Your father promised to protect you. When he died, I feared what would come next, so I locked it away here. Jocelyn is not your blood and her children have no claim. I trust you to do what's right. When you're scared, remember, you are my heir and no one, no matter how clever, can make you disappear. Tears prickled at Marissa's lashes. Clara, pressing in close, whispered, Did Graham really say all that? She did, Marissa breathed, pressing the letter to her heart. Flipping through the certificates, Marissa found 12 blue-chip stocks, IBM, General Electric, Coca-Cola, and more, all dating from the 70s and 80s, all issued in her grandmother's name and later transferred to Marissa's before she turned 10. The dividend records were even wilder. Each year, a line, thousands of dollars never claimed. There had to be 8 million, maybe more, if Eddie was right. Quietly, she realized her family hadn't just hidden money. They'd tried to erase her existence. The wind rattled the shutters. Footsteps crunched outside, the sharp, heavy tread of someone not trying to be quiet. Marissa barely had time to react before Brooks's face appeared in the cracked glass of the front door, followed by Paige, and then Jocelyn herself. Jocelyn's voice, so smooth in public, now sliced cold. Open up, Marissa, we need to talk. I know you found something. Heart-pounding, Marissa set Clara behind her, blocking the way. Brooks banged the door with his fist. You think we can't get in? Paige's voice rose, mocking. She won't last a day here, let's go, Mom. Jocelyn only smiled, lips pursed like she'd bit into a lemon. Listen carefully, Marissa. You leave everything on that table, walk away now, and maybe we'll let you keep your car. Marissa squared her shoulders. I'm not going anywhere. Brooks lunged for the door, but she pressed her back against it, voice tight. You're not taking what's mine, not this time. Paige scoffed, phone raised, snapping photos. Keep playing the victim. The law doesn't care. Jocelyn laughed, but her eyes narrowed. Don't push your luck, you crossed a line. Marissa's jaw locked. No, you did. I'm calling the bank tomorrow. If you don't want this to go public, you'll walk away. She watched them retreat to the car, slamming the doors. Jocelyn's promise echoed behind her. Be smart, Marissa, time's almost up. The next day, Marissa made the trip to Cedillo's First National, documents stacked in a battered shopping bag, Clara trailing close. A teller directed her to an upstairs office where a sharp-eyed woman named Morgan waited. Morgan scanned the certificates, eyebrows hiking higher. These are legit and untouched, this many years of dividends. She tapped the calculator. 8.2 million, not counting the latest interest. That's just what you can get with some paperwork. But there's a catch. You have to file these as unclaimed assets with the IRS. That triggers an audit, and if anyone tried to claim them as their own or failed to report them, penalties are steep. Marissa's pulse thundered, so any fraud surfaces right away. Exactly, Morgan said. If you're the lawful heir, it'll be clear. Anyone else, well, not so lucky. Want my help filing? Marissa nodded, voice weak. Yes, please. I need to protect my daughter. Morgan leaned closer. Who else knows you have these? Only my stepmother and her kids. Morgan frowned. Let me copy everything. I'll have a lawyer friend look at the will, but get somewhere safe after this. Families get dirty when millions are involved. In the parking lot, Marissa called Eddie. We did it. The bank's on our side now. Eddie's voice was strained. Good, but word's out. The estate sale is set for Thursday next week. Jocelyn's pushing harder. You've got to get the county clerk to freeze the proceedings with what you found. Back at the cottage, Marissa barely had time to process when an envelope slid under the porch door. Inside was a crude threat in blocky handwriting. Get out, or you and your brat will regret it. Clara recoiled. Mom, who would do that? Marissa hugged her daughter. People who are scared. That night, shadows moved outside, car lights, voices. But Marissa stood guard with an old tire iron clutched in hand, documents close at her side. The next morning, a knock rattled the front door. Jocelyn strode in, flanked by Brooks and Paige, faces tight as drums. Jocelyn hissed, "You don't know what you're doing. Those papers could cost you everything." Brooks snatched for the folder, but Marissa held it tight. "You already took my father. You're not taking this." The standoff sizzled. Paige sneered, fingers flexing. "What's 8 million to people like us anyway?" Marissa bristled. 8 million is more than I made in every waitressing shift in my life, and it could fix this entire town. Jocelyn's voice turned steely. "The IRS will come for you too. Don't think they'll play favorites." Marissa felt her flaw, her unrelenting drive, turn, finally, into shield instead of weakness. "Let them come," she spat. "I did nothing wrong. You can't sell what you never owned." They left, but not before Paige hissed, "This isn't over." For hours, Marissa made frantic calls, county clerk, probate judge, police station, anyone who would listen. She sent Eddie copies. She pressed Morgan to escalate with the state. No one answered right away. At dusk, Eddie called, "Pack up. I got a friend at the IRS in Albuquerque. Tomorrow you meet her, bring everything." Paige texted at midnight, "Better say goodbye to that dump, 36 hours. Fatigue wove through Marissa's bones, but resolve carried her through. She spent the next night prepping 3 copies of every document, following Morgan's instructions to the letter. Her plan: show up at the town board hearing, evidence in hand, trap Jocelyn in front of the entire council. No more secrets. Morgan texted at dawn, IRS examiner's appointment at noon. No turning back now, you ready to burn it all down? Marissa's reply was only 3 words, born for this. By late morning, Marissa strode into the chilly conference room at the county courthouse, a file box in her arms and Clara trailing nervously. Eddie arrived minutes later, shoulders hunched beneath his flannel. Inside, 3 officials waited, the probate judge, a stern IRS examiner named Miss Quinn, and the town clerk. But it was Jocelyn's presence, prim in a power suit, lips pursed with furious calculation, that sucked the air from the room. Brooks and Paige scoured their phones, feigning boredom. The officials barely spared Marissa a glance as she laid her stacks of documents down. The clerk cleared his throat. "Miss Greer, you say you're the true heir to the disputed assets." Jocelyn broke in immediately, voice oozing disdain. "She's a waitress, for God's sake, this whole story is a joke." Marissa bristled, but her response was ice. "We'll let the documents speak." Miss Quinn gestured for the files. "Hand them over, please." The lights were unkind, cold as hospital bulbs, as Marissa flipped to the first certificate. Her hands only shook a little. Jocelyn's eyes narrowed, Paige snorted. "Color me shocked she owns paper." Miss Quinn squinted at the names. "These are registered to Marissa Greer, fully, with signatures by Margaret Greer, her grandmother, not you, Miss Greer Pritchard." Jocelyn's lips whitened. "There's nothing real about those." Marissa shot back, fury barely contained. "Maybe you should have checked the staircase panel before laughing at me." Brooks glared, spitting. "She's making this up." Eddie piped up from behind, his usual warmth gone. "Check the dates. Dividends never claimed. Someone's been hiding the account. Quinn leafed through the pages, one brow arched. There is a clear trail of ownership and transfer. No filings from Jocelyn Greer or her children. Care to explain, Miss Greer Pritchard, how you've been collecting any income from these? Jocelyn bristled, voice a venomous hiss. She's manipulating you. This is all an act. You think this backwater's worth millions? Go ahead, drag us all down together. Marissa, breath shallow, pressed forward, eyes on her stepmother. Don't you dare pretend it's yours. Don't even try it. Jocelyn's nostrils flared, fake calm cracking. Move, you're blocking the door. Ms. Quinn's pen twitched over her pad. Marissa shook her head, stepping closer. It was never meant for you. Brooks lunged up, hand reaching for the box. Eddie cut him off, growling, you might want to step aside. Paige's voice cracked, blistering the air. You always thought you were better than us. That's over now. Marissa's hands tightened on the certificates. Her voice was low and final. You lied, you stole, and now the truth staring you in the face. Go ahead, try to take it. Jocelyn faltered, for once lost for words. Only the ticking courthouse clock dared break the silence. Footsteps echoed. The door flung wide. Miss Quinn signaled 2 uniformed federal agents. Miss Greer Pritchard, Brooks Greer, Paige Greer, you are subjects of an immediate IRS investigation for unreported asset fraud and attempted illegal conversion. All estate assets are frozen pending further audit. Jocelyn sputtered, color draining from her as agents flashed papers and led her, Brooks and Paige, away. She twisted, cursing at Marissa. This isn't fair, it was supposed to be ours. The judge leaned forward, pinching the bridge of his nose. Miss Greer, your grandmother's will is recognized. You are the owner of these assets and the property. Congratulations. Paige's cell phone clattered to the floor, ignored, while Brooks stared at nowhere in particular, face slack. Eddie clapped Marissa on the shoulder, voice softer now. You held your ground, proud of you. Clara squeezed her mother's hand. We're really staying. Marissa closed her eyes, breath coming in ragged relief. We're staying. 2 months later, Cedillo's turnaround began with an unassuming sign. Marissa's new laundromat and general store, open doors and humming machines finally bringing warmth and work back to the dying edge of town. Jocelyn and her children lost their sprawling house, Porsche auctioned for tax liens, frozen accounts leaving their private school dreams in dust. The IRS pinned years of penalties and seized every asset Jocelyn had tried to keep. The story spilled through Cedillo and farther, a lesson echoing in every boarded window now thrown open. Marissa's business thrived, giving second chances to neighbors who'd long lost hope. Eddie's diner had lines again. Even Miss Quinn stopped by for coffee, grinning as she watched the town stitch itself back together. On slow afternoons, Clara ran batches for elderly shoppers and learned to count quarters at the register. Marissa, only now able to breathe, sometimes walked the length of the property just to see the windows shine. Sometimes justice isn't a courtroom drama. It's sunlight through a bare window, the steady thrum of a new life, and the feeling of being finally seen. If you've ever fought for a place you were never supposed to have, maybe you'll understand. The road back is long, but worth every single muddy step. Because even in a broken cottage, even after everything's been taken, you can rebuild, not just for yourself, but for everyone who needs the proof it can be done. Late spring green threaded between the fence posts and laundry lines. Down by the creek, Clara waded knee-deep, shrieking as minnows tickled her ankles. House paint, real, bright turquoise, gleamed fresh on the porch rails. Marissa finished her coffee, washing down the morning's sharpness with milk and honey. The whistle of a distant train, Cedillo's only clock, felt less like an escape now and more like a promise. Eddie leaned against his truck, arms folded, eyes taking in the bustle around Marissa's new store. You still believe you belong here, he teased, mock serious. She grinned, hair wild in the wind. I don't just believe it, Look around, Eddie, first time in decades there's 3 hiring signs up on Main. Even Mrs. Mendoza's teaching baking to the high schoolers. He nodded. That's you, kid. Place needed fixing, and for once, no one's waiting for a miracle out of Santa Fe. Never thought I'd see those Greers run off their own land. Marissa glanced toward the far road. People forget how fast things change. Eddie raised an eyebrow. Jocelyn's lawyer called me last week. She's petitioning for supervised visitation with her kids now that Brooks got himself a job at the gas station. Far cry from Harvard. Marissa's lips pressed thin. Let her have whatever peace she can find. I'm too busy for grudges. Clara dashed up, cheeks ruddy. Mom, Mrs. Quinn brought her dog again. He needs a bath in the big sink. Eddie let out a bark of laughter. Federal agent on weekends, dog mom the rest. That woman's seen more of Cedillo in 2 months than the sheriff does in a year. Marissa knelt, tugged a blade of grass from Clara's ponytail. You want to help? Clara nodded, bouncing in mud-spattered sneakers. From inside, voices rose, a customer, then laughter, the crinkling chime as someone propped the screen door open. Business was good. Hope never walked alone anymore. Marissa stepped aside, let Clara skip ahead, the sunlight catching in the girl's hair. She watched her daughter trade stories with Mrs. Quinn, hands busy with soap and terracloth. Paige's old scornful voice was just a ghost now, left to tumble along with dust behind some locked-up house a county away. Eddie sauntered after her and paused, looking back. You think your Graham ever dreamed of this, not just fortune but all this fixing? Marissa remembered the battered notebook. She tapped her chest, where the letter lived in a hidden pocket. I think she hoped, maybe that's enough. A shadow fell over her, a quiet, hesitant silhouette. Morgan from the bank, hair tucked neat, held out an envelope. Sorry to interrupt, she said. There's another certified check for the last 2 years' dividends, and the probate judge sent a letter, properties officially off estate sale. It's yours clean. Relief, deep and delicious, wound through Marissa's muscles. Thank you for everything. Morgan just smiled, shy. You made it easy. Next time you want to set up a scholarship fund, you let me know. Cedillo High's due for one. Marissa laughed, unexpected, bright as brass. You read my mind. She signed the bank slip, tucking the fresh check away. I want every girl here to know you don't have to ask permission forever. Inside, laughter and conversation spilled out the doors. The town's edges blurred, no longer a place to escape but somewhere to arrive. People came to her now, offering stories. Everyone had one about Graham or her father or old family debts that could now be forgiven. Later, as dusk fell and Clara's hair glowed copper in the golden light, Marissa turned the new key in the cottage lock. For the first time, the click was comfort, not fear. She knelt to meet her daughter's eyes. Know what Graham's letter always said, when you're scared, remember who you are. Clara nodded, proud. We're Greers, we belong right here. Marissa's smile flooded with tears and sunlight and all the miles she'd crawled to claim it. That's right, baby, and nobody is going to take that from us again. Night settled easy, the future theirs to build. And behind each closed door, every muddy step, the proof of their belonging echoed, solid, lasting, forever home.